do it live. F it.
Earl Skakel, thanks for coming on.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for having me, brother.
It's great to have you. It's kind of surreal because, like you, I am a follower of the podcast wars going on YouTube. And you were at ground zero on the show Misery Loves Company with Kevin Brennan about a week ago. And I was like, man, this guy makes really good points and he's bringing levity into this situation. So, yeah, I was impressed with that.
Well, I think, like I said on the episode, that there's things I disagree with on all sides.
Yeah.
This is like watching a bunch of 5-year-olds argue. Well, he started it first.
Absolutely.
So I had to do this. And I think in regards to Chad and Kevin, and I guess Steel Toe and Carl, it's a never-ending string of podcasts. But in some ways, it's not. It's only about 10 podcasts that are going at each other. They're all doing stuff that I think is wrong. Bringing in kids, family members.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that if you have a problem with someone, keep it to them. But
yeah,
this is the new era of, essentially, as anyone who's a fan of mine, God forbid if you are, I come from the show Roast Battle, which
mm-hmm.
What I loved about Roast Battle the most is if you wanted to talk shit about somebody, great, they're going to be on stage with you. So there's a different energy, I think, when someone is in the room with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can call them fat, but they're going to get to call you something.
Yeah.
And the crowd, which in the belly room at the Comedy Store,
mm-hmm.
they're right on top of you. So you get instant feedback. Whereas, with, say, Chad and Kevin, Chad could say something about Bob's stepdaughter. There's really no blowback for an hour or two until Bob hears about it. And then vice versa. Bob and Kevin can make fun of, Chad's brother's situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Chad's not going to hear about it for a few hours. So he has a few hours to amp up. And, it's the same thing with Steel Toe and Chad.
Sure.
Shuley and Stuttering John.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not into the online roasting. If I have a problem with you, I'll say to your face.
Yeah, that energy is weird now. And I think super chats have a lot to do with that weird energy. Because it kind of adds to it, and it's sort of like, it's odd to me because I've seen it really become prevalent where it's like people are paying to be a writer for a show, to write lines and have them read, I don't know if I like it. I feel like I think it's making people lazy. If these guys can just turn on their laptop or phone and then like go in unprepared, just read super chats. I mean, they are funny with the super chats. They do riff off of them, but man, I really think it just comes down to good content. And I've always said that if you do a good show, people can't make fun of you.
I mean, I do like it from the standpoint of I've done comedy for free for so long
mm-hmm.
that, it is kind of neat to have a source or a lane of income that, hey, I'm a funny person. If you like what I do, pay me. If not, I'm still going to do the show. But so I don't mind it. I mean, Kevin has motivated me. I mean, here's a guy who's a very successful comic, and he has paved a way for comics to make money and not have to leave your home. I don't mind it.
Look, if people want to throw money at me, look, there's descriptions, go for it. This whole world and this toxic hypocritical thing where everyone's accusing others of what they did, and it's just this circle, but then there's these unwritten rules. It's kind of like, well, Chad crossed the line. Well, what's the line? You know what I'm saying? I might agree he did cross the line, but at the same time, Aaron, I interviewed Aaron. I'm down with anyone who does my show, but I'm going to keep it real. I think when in the beginning they were really going after him and April, and they were going after him pretty hard. Now his response was fucking over the top. I look at Chad Zumock and I'm sympathetic toward him as far as his background. Rough shit, dude, rough shit. And I think that crosses the line too. Now, who crossed the line first? That's debatable. I guess Chad did. I don't know. I don't think Chad's talking about people's dead relatives. Why is that funny and okay?
I think in the podcast wars world, it started with Stuttering John.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Carl and who are these podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
They were first in. They took a lot of meat off the bone, and then Shuley came in, took whatever meat was left.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think after Shuley had kind of taken whatever was left, everyone was looking for a new Stuttering John.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think Steel Toe found Chad.
Yeah.
I don't remember how they found him, but
I'll tell you.
Unlike, but I think, okay. Yeah, because I don't remember that part.
What had happened was Steel Toe saw that Shuley and Carl from Who Are These Podcasts took all the meat off the bone. So Aaron was like, I'm going to start doing the peripheral Stuttering John guys or the players from around it. And he zoomed in on Chad Zumock, and with the whole Chad Zumock went on Who Are These Podcasts. Chad started going after Carl, and then Steel Toe started picking these secondary people to go after, and then he started going after Chad. And then Who Are These Podcasts started doing the same thing. So anyway, that's how it happened.
Unlike Stuttering John, who just kind of took it. Maybe he didn't care, or he just wasn't interested in getting in the mix. Chad, I thought, did a brilliant strategy at first of almost like a rope-a-dope. Just keep coming. And then something, Shuley said to me once, Earl, you are incapable of speaking unless it's got a pro wrestling reference behind it. So I'll explain myself in that way. And I might lose you for 2 seconds with the references, but
you probably won't. But go ahead, let's try.
There was a promo about a year ago between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay.
Okay.
And standard good guy, bad guy stuff. And Will Ospreay is basically the slightly younger version of Kenny Omega. So they have a natural heat between each other.
Okay.
And, it started off by Ospreay saying, I'm the new you. I'm accomplishing much more than you. Standard scripted stuff. And Omega was just coming off of an injury. Mm-hmm. He had a T-shirt on. He's got this great body. And Ospreay said, what's the matter, bro? Are the abs gone, brother? Basically calling him fat.
Okay.
And that's the worst thing you can do to someone who works out is call them fat. And I think that happened with Steel Toe and Chad.
Mm-hmm.
They hit a line, and I don't know what it was, but there was a line that made, like Omega, Chad go, okay, guys, it's on.
Yeah.
But I do think Steel Toe miscalculated how far Chad would, go in on them.
I think they did too. I think they did. I think he did too. And I'll tell you my thought on it. I think when April got involved, I think that's what, in my opinion, I don't know Chad. I've never spoken to Chad, but I think she started getting in on the jokes, and she was really roasting Chad pretty good. And I think that bothered him more so than Aaron doing it. And he really started going after her.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to ask Steel Toe, or really Chad, and I don't know if he would ever say, "This is the line that got me going."
Sure. Yeah, he's probably the only one I'll ever know. Yeah, things have definitely gone way too far. I think I'm about to check out of it for a while,
I do find it repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the same stuff over and over again. So.
Yeah. And it was the same with like John back in the day. I remember like him getting into it with Anthony Cumia and Artie Lang. And of course, they would be making fun of John, and then John would come back with well, Artie, you tried to kill yourself, And the argument was John went too far. And now the argument's, well, Chad's going too far. It's like, a divorce versus, your brother getting killed. I mean, like, I'm kind of on the Chad side a little bit,
Well, I will say, Chad is driving these podcast wars, so it's good for business.
It's good. It is. It's good for business, but whose business? Like, I couldn't imagine putting out content and other people getting benefiting more numbers and more money off of the content that I produce on my own channel by taking it and reacting to it. Like, more other people are making money off of John. Other people making money off of Chad. At least more money than he's making, I think.
I just think, unfortunately, with the podcast wars, you need constant new enemies. So it's like wrestling. You need new feuds.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Chad, is Chad will keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
And, whereas like Stuttering John didn't, which is why it got old pretty fast, because it's like, oh, it's not funny. He's not fighting back. Now, and, well, I think the interesting thing about Chad is, he's a storyteller, with, like, people still talk about the black eye. I still don't know the story behind that. Like,
yeah, I don't think anyone's ever going to know, but him.
But and it's great because we still talk about it, and so I think
I mean, he gets drunk yesterday, I think it was, and everyone's talking about it. He was on for 9 minutes. So what? So fucking what? He drank and it was drunk. Who gives a fuck? I'm with Chad. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, but that kind of made me sad because
it was,
and I do think that, and I forget whether it was Steel Toe or Carl even show it. I get confused,
no, it's fine.
I watch it all, so it's hard to. And one of them was like admitting this isn't cool anymore, because it's, I mean, so many lines have been crossed by everyone. I think everyone deep down knows, hey, I went too far.
Dude, they're still doing it, man. They're doing it as of today.
Oh, I know, but they're in too deep, all of them now. You can't turn it back. You can't say, Chad's a good guy deep down. Not when you've been making fun of his brother dying. And,
yeah, dude, I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that. But at the same time, he's
Chad's the same way, though. Like, like, I'm friends with him, but like, he's crossed the line too. And he's gone too deep where if they ever do a show, I think Atlantic City, something's happening there in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could have Chad and Steel Toe say, hey, let's bury the hatchet. Like, they've gone too deep.
They've all accomplished things, they all have a unique story. I mean, everyone just wants to look at Chad for like the last couple of years, but I've looked into him. I'm like, man, this dude's been at it for a while, Aaron, on my interview, I learned a lot about Aaron, El Horrible. He was a fucking intern at K-Rock, all these guys have interesting stories. I do want to get into your story. Everyone.
I'm boring compared to these guys.
Dude, I interviewed this fart prank guy. I mean, we got people in the podcast wars thinking they're big stuff with 10K, subscribers on YouTube. This guy, Sons of Arkham YouTube channel, Dan, I mean, he's got 170,000 subscribers, you know?
My buddy, Jordan the Lion, he was an actor out here. And, you know, it's hard to be an actor out in Los Angeles. I mean, you know, I know some of my friends who are on TV shows, featured recurring characters, and they still waiter, you know, like, and, you know, he was struggling, and he started a travel vlog, and he's killing it. He has, like, I think 250,000 subscribers.
Man, that's amazing.
And he'll do these really cool, like, travel vlogs. Like, he'll go to the Ultimate Warrior's grave, and he'll do a story about it, and then he'll go, I used to date the manager of Motorhead, so I was in the episode about Lemmy, and he'll go to Lemmy's apartment, and then he'll go to the Rainbow. It's really well done stories and vlogs, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's never been easier for you, me, Jordan, to make it on your own. And
it's true. I would say you've made it. Like, Stuttering John, he made it. You made it. Now, everyone's definition of what made it means. To me, looking at you, I would say you made it. You're been doing comedy for a long time. You're a fucking regular at the Comedy Store. Like I've seen you say that no, that shit doesn't get handed to you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure for you at some point, 15, 20, 30 years ago, if someone would have came to you and said, "Hey, Earl, in you know, whenever in the future, your name is going to be on the outside of the Comedy Store and you're going to be a regular there," you would have been like, "Fucking sign me up," right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like getting your name on the wall at the Comedy Store. It's like getting your name on the Stanley Cup if you play hockey. Like,
fuck yeah, man. So you made it. You know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, making it is different to all people.
It is. That's my point. That's my point. But I think you made it, and that's why I'm talking to you right now.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, listen, I personally don't think I've made it, but, you know, I think about a year ago there was a comic. She was really drunk. I said, "Let me give you a ride home," and so I'm giving her a ride home, and she's like, "Earl, you're my mentor." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you've been on TV, you know, Roast Battle, and I'm dying up here, and you're the lead on an Adult Swim cartoon." Because she was into animation. Paid regular at the Comedy Store, and I started going, "Hey, maybe I have made it." I mean, she kept naming all it, but you know, I think you know, everyone's version is different. Like,
everyone's version is different. I would say this though. I would say you're supporting yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're doing what you love, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're living where you want to live. Likely. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
but then you made it. You're supporting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy.
If you're supporting yourself doing what you love in the entertainment business, in the industry, then you made it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
No, I mean, you know, to some people, you know, Russell Peters is making it. No, that's absolutely Russell Peters has made it by most people's barometers. You know, Matt Rife, he's a newer, younger comic. You know, he's a social media comic, I guess you'd say. Going on a world tour, just really based on his TikTok videos. To me, he's made it.
Yeah.
You know, I think making it is what you make of it.
I think making it is when you could sit there and you're proud of what you've accomplished.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I think that's then you when you're it doesn't matter what Kevin Brennan says about you. You know, you have enough self-respect to know what you've been through to feel happy in your skin. And I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love Kevin. I mean, it's almost a honor to be roasted by him.
That's absolutely true. I was thinking about this interview and a little bit earlier, a couple hours ago, and something popped in my head. And because I've kind of checked you out and checked out a lot of your social media and some of your past interviews and some of your podcast stuff. And you, I mean, you entertain entertainers. I mean, the celebrities that go into the Comedy Store are just there to see a show. Musicians, you know, all types, actors, Tyler, the Creator, Grammy Award winner, and you are entertaining them. I mean, that is a big fucking deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, at the Comedy Store, it is the place where entertainers go to get entertained.
Yeah, man, and you are entertaining them. So,
you know, that's my goal. I mean, last night at the Comedy Store, I closed out the main room, and it was famous comic after famous comic after famous comic after famous comic, and then me.
mm-hmm.
And I had a great set. So hopefully, when the people left the show that night, they loved seeing Whitney Cummings and Mark Maron and Bobby Lee and the others, but they left going, who was that last guy? He was pretty good. Yeah, hopefully they say that. So
I want to talk about music. Yeah, I know you're a big Kiss fan. Lick It Up was big on MTV. I like the riff, and I like Vinnie Vincent, believe it or not. And that man, what a character that guy has become. I've been following him the last 5 years, and it's so strange, man.
I mean, he an enigma to say the least. I mean, talent wise, he has Van Halen like ability. And I know what I'm saying when I say that. Like that's a bold statement.
Sure.
But brain wise, you know, there's not a lot going on up there.
Man, yeah, I don't want to diagnose him, but yeah, man, like I've watched, you know, he was just gone forever, and then he came back maybe 4 years ago at a Kiss convention. Have you followed it since? Like what's going on?
Oh yeah. Well, I was one of the ones who bought the original box set. You know, 25 years ago. And I got it in the mail. And for those of you watching, I got a package in the mail. This is not it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna show it to me.
No, I wish. I lost.
Oh man.
And I was like, man, this package feels a little light. Like I'm going like this, and I opened it up, and there was nothing in it.
Oh shit!
I think it was $100 or $125, which was a lot of money back then.
Yeah,
and
yeah, a lot of people still bring that up, man.
So does he. I think it was a year ago. He said, "I'm going to make it right to all the people who bought that box set 25 years ago. I'm going to give you 2 box sets." And I'm like, I just want the one I paid for. Like, you know, I think Gene Simmons had the best, and I don't often agree with what Gene says, because I think Gene and Paul always try and make it seem like they're the normal ones. But Gene said in regards to Vinny, you could give him the keys to the kingdom and he'll shoot himself in the foot every time. And
yeah, man, it's a problem. A lot of people self-sabotage their careers, their success, their talent. They just self-sabotage at every turn, you know.
Well, I've seen it. I see it in comedy every day. But
yeah,
you know, when you look at Vinny, and it's weird. We talked when we first started talking about Gene and Paul working with each other, even though they hate each other, and you know, just talking about the podcast wars for 2 seconds. You know, all these people pile on Chad, but you know what they don't realize is they need Chad to drive the insanity. And I think Kiss and Vinny were very much like that. You know, let's be honest, he rescued their career. Like,
I think so, man.
Well, because I don't think Ace was capable of ushering in the new '80s era. You know, if you if you're a younger fan, in your 30s or whatever, you don't realize that the type of guitar that was really prevalent back then was, obviously Van Halen, Jakey Lee. But I mean, that was the style that, was in vogue and would be in vogue for the next couple of years, was faster playing, and George Lynch, and then to the ultimate degree, Yngwie Malmsteen. And I don't think Ace could have done that. Ace was from that Jimmy Page kind of sloppy, noodling, and I don't mean sloppy in a negative way, but so I think Vinnie and even Mark St. John, who is almost a footnote in history, they were the perfect players for that time. So, Vinnie just, because I think the first Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, most of that album was demos that would have been on Animalize, which would have been interesting. But
yeah, as you're saying that, and I'm thinking about Vinnie Vincent's guitar playing style, it's interesting that, like, Lick It Up, I mean, I don't know what their most popular song was. I think I would say Lick It Up was probably up there. Yep. It's a simple riff, it's just very simple but memorable.
Well, that's why I think they were good for each other. Was Vinnie brought and he's a great songwriter, that style of music, and that's because I think his background. Now, this is doing a real deep dive. I'm going to mention some names. People are probably like, what? But, when he started off in the Dan Hartman band, which Dan Hartman, a great 80s AOR type guy, he's most known for I Can Dream About You from the Streets of Fire soundtrack. But, that was a very melodic band. And, he got to play with G.E. Smith, from Hall & Oates and the Saturday Night Live band. So I think he had a good school of melodic playing behind his speed playing. And so I think, I think as the 80s started coming on, he wanted to prove how fast he could play. And, he saw what was coming with Lynch and DeMartini and all those guys, Jakey Lee. It's like, well, I can play fast too. So I think Gene and Paul were good for him. Like, hey, dude, you don't have to play a million notes a second. So I think they were good for each other, much like, what we talked about with the podcast wars and whatnot.
And that's a funny, and it's interesting, the podcast wars. You hear Kevin Brennan talk. They're talking about, he was only paying me $100. He was only paying me $200. Anthony was only giving me $200, and it wasn't worth it, and blah blah blah. But it's with that, it's like it came to a point where Vinnie was like, I want more money, and they're like, no, and that's where it kind of is all. Isn't that where it kind of ended with Kiss? And other than the fact, I'm sure he was kind of a loose cannon.
Well, like the podcast wars, I get accused of never picking a side, but that's because I try and see all sides.
Sure, yeah.
And with
me too,
Vinnie and Kiss, I do see both sides.
I do too.
I'm sure Vinnie was like, wait a minute, I just wrote or co-wrote 8 of the 10 songs on Lick It Up. Your guys' albums were flailing before me. And I actually like The Elder and Creatures of the Night, but they did not sell very well, especially The Elder. I don't want to be a hired gun. Like, I literally just saved your asses. But I also get Gene and Paul going, hey man, we've been keeping this band together for 4 years when it's been kind of flailing, and you don't have a band to save unless we carried the water the last couple of years. I mean, this is a different subject. It doesn't really relate to Vinnie, I guess, but
fine, go ahead.
I mean, I did a podcast once where I think Kiss did something I've never seen before, where literally, I think it was 10 straight albums were a different musical genre. Like, starting with Dynasty, which is, we don't have to name all 10 albums, but Dynasty was a disco album, essentially. Unmasked was a basically a Cars album, which I love the Cars, so I was okay with that. And then, The Elder was kind of a Pink Floyd, hey, we can write good songs too. And then Creatures of the Night was more of a Zeppelin-esque hard rock record, and so on and so forth. And then Kiss had, I think they're the only band to ever do this, where they had 4 different guitar players on 4 straight albums. Like, that's insane.
That is.
So I think that, Kiss in that time period when Vinnie, and he was on Creatures of the Night. Most people don't really realize that.
They don't.
But I mean, there were so many guitar players on Creatures of the Night, from the guy from Mr. Mister. I think Steve Ferris was his name. Is his name? Vinnie. I think. Robin Ford was rumored to have been on that album, and who knows who got
right.
I think at that time period it was rumored that Robin Crosby from Rat had auditioned. So and Punky Meadows, I don't even think Kiss knows who played on Creatures of the Night. I really believe
it's so crazy
that some of those songs on the finished album, Gene and Paul, they might say they know, but I really believe they truly don't know. I mean, Vinnie's style is pretty memorable, so like I do believe Vinnie was on the song Creatures of the Night. You could tell it's his tone. So, Kiss was a mess when Vinnie joined, so, but I do understand he's and to this day is a total wild card. I was contacted because I had pitched a documentary to Netflix. I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast because someone might steal the idea, but fuck it.
I'll edit it out if you want me to.
No, you could keep it in. If someone wants to take, because I know how hard Vinnie is to work with, no one's going to steal this idea because you're not going to be able to carry it out.
That's true.
I had the empty box set that Vinnie sent me. So I had pitched this idea to Netflix of a documentary called Finding Vinnie, and the opening scene. Now, this is when he was kind of the recluse still.
Yeah, he was off in Nashville, outskirts of Nashville.
Well, people didn't even know. I mean, Rolling Stone tried to find him, and they couldn't find him.
Yeah, he didn't turn up until there was some like domestic stuff going on with him and his wife and some DUIs. But other than that, it was no one even knew he was in that and where he was. Yeah, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. So I said, here's the opening scene. It's me at my living room table opening up the box set with nothing in it. And then the next scene, if we could find him, is me knocking on Vinnie Vincent's door.
That would have been fucking awesome, dude.
Where are my cassettes, motherfucker? And someone reached out to me through Vinnie's camp, or I don't even know if he had a camp, but
he probably I think he's got people, but he is those people. I think it's a one-person operation.
Well, it's like Jamie Kennedy was on my podcast, and he said, and it's a well-known story, that Jamie Kennedy, the comic and actor,
I know him.
He used to call comedy clubs, and he gave some phony name, getting himself booked. Like he would say, I'm Joe Schmo, the manager for Jamie Kennedy. And but this guy, it was probably a friend of Vinnie's. He's like, Vinnie would love to come do your podcast. It's $25,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no one pays for podcasts. Guest. Even Rogan might pay his guest, but but I'm not on that level. It's like, I'm giving him an opportunity to give his side of the story and make it right with the, I'll guess, hundreds of people he ripped off through the years. And they're like, okay, we'll do it for 15. And I'm like, no, I'm not paying you $1. Like, I'm trying to help you guys. And I know my friend manages him now. And my friend, Howie Hubbard, he used to manage Poison. And so he knows what he's doing. And I could tell now, Howie's never said anything bad about Vinnie, but I could tell it's exhausting.
Oh,
So
it's got to be working. It's got to be like working with Beetlejuice.
it's on that level, you know.
I'm serious.
I don't think, I don't know what goes on in Vinny's head, but it's like, dude, you could carve out a nice niche of
Well, people are
convention.
still people. I mean, he still has one. That's what's interesting. I mean, he's still putting on like these once a year birthday bashes where people come into this mysterious place and supposedly he's shredding like he's ever never shredded before, like he's always done. But there's no footage of it. There's clips of him, like I've seen a few lately. And then even this past week, it was like he said he had a band. Robert Fleischman was back. Robert Fleischman wasn't back. He had this other dude he said was a singer. Then he's like, I don't know, this dude's not my singer. It's always drama with this dude. It's crazy. What's interesting is like I will see reports from some of these people who have paid $500 for this private party, and by the accounts that I've seen, it's been worth it. They actually had a good time with him. He was very personable. He played his ass off, supposedly. I mean, I wasn't there, but dude, if I live in Memphis and if Vinnie Vincent was playing in Memphis, dude, I would fucking be there in a heartbeat. I want to see this either shit show or I want to see him shred, one or the other.
Think how cool it would be though, like if he had his shit together, if the final farewell tour, and Kiss would probably do this because it's selling out anyway, so you don't really need them. But like I'm going to go see them at the Hollywood Bowl in November, I think it is. How cool would that be if he came on stage just to do Lick It Up and maybe All Hell's Breaking Loose, and so you don't put the pressure on him to play a full show. Here's 2 songs, you wrote them. Tommy will go backstage. We'll have a little fun. That would be so cool, and the fans would fucking dig that. But he'd probably ask for more money an hour before the show, and then Gene and Paul would tell him to F off. We'll just go out there with Tommy and Era. So it's sad. I hate seeing people piss away talent. And I know if I'm 54, he's got to be 64, 65, however old he is.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the clock is ticking, brother. Your last known 15 minutes of fame were 40 years ago, bro. So, but some people never learn. I see in the comedy world all the time.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt, man. Speaking of Kiss, I was looking at some of their stuff, but like the Psycho Circus Kiss, I like that. I like the Carnival of Souls stuff, which is odd, but it's my own journey. You know what I'm saying? It's my own musical taste. So,
yeah, like I always say about Carnival of Souls, it's a great Stone Temple Pilots record.
Yeah, I like the song Jungle, but Childhood's End is probably one of my favorite Kiss songs.
Oh, that's a great album. Like if you don't tell people it's Kiss, you just put it on, and Paul's vocals are pretty identifiable, but it's a really good album. Creatures of the Night is a great hard rock record. Animalize is another one of my favorite albums, and Heaven's on Fire is one of their more popular songs.
Yeah, that's right, man. Ooh, those videos are pretty cringy.
Lick It Up stands up because it's kind of a cool post-apocalyptic, Mad Max, whatever you want to call it. But you can even tell if you ever watch the Lick It Up video again, they must have already been having problems with Vinny because it's so noticeable that they cut him out of 90% of that video. But Heaven's on Fire, that's a little cringy.
Yeah, it's really cringy, man.
Where they're just in a hotel room with a bunch of 80s type rocker chicks making out. But,
but most videos were cringy in the early 80s, mid 80s anyway.
Oh, 100%.
One of my favorite bands is a band called Zebra. Have you heard of Zebra?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I interviewed Randy Jackson, the singer and guitar player, a couple of months ago, but they had a couple of videos, but one of their videos, Wait Until the Summer's Gone, off of their second album. It's a pretty cringy
Right.
video. I mean, they have him jumping around like, David Lee Roth. I mean, Eddie Van Halen, and they have him do some. Who's Behind the Door is a good video though, but nothing was as bad as Billy Squire's video.
I mean, that killed his career.
Yeah, it did. It did, man.
Because he was a badass rock and roller.
Fuck yeah, he was. Boy. Ouch. I watched that interview you did with Ryan Roxy, and I learned so much in that interview. Like, I've never heard of Shark Island, and then I'm on a Shark Island fucking rabbit hole, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they're another band, probably my greatest what if band. They were kings of the Sunset Strip, sold out Gazaris every time. I mean, it's often rumored that Axl Rose copied Richard Black's stage moves.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Shark Island about a year and a half ago at the Whiskey. And I got to be honest with you, I thought I'm going to see if he really moves like Axl Rose or vice versa. And I could see Axl Rose stealing from this guy. Like, he's very charismatic, even in 2022, I guess, at the time. He's bald, and he was wearing like a beanie and like a Nike t-shirt. I mean, it was a very unglammed version of Shark Island, and he's great. I mean, great frontman, even in regular clothes. So, but they, kind of fell into that, just getting there a little too late, even though they were the kings of the strip for much of the 80s. Their major record release was in 89. And it just, they had the one video on MTV. Well, they had two videos on MTV, Paris is Calling and Bad for Each Other. And just a little late to the party.
To me, people talk Nirvana, but Dirt and I'm a huge fan of Facelift. That this definitely, for me, was a bridge out of Shark Island type stuff into darker things,
Well, I think Janie Lane told the story. I think they were both on the same record label, and he goes in there for a meeting. There's the lobby of Atlantic Records was a huge cherry pie mural, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back like 2 weeks later or something, and there's a huge mural for Alice in Chains.
It was specifically Dirt.
So a lot of bands were just not prepared for the upcoming wave of, alternative rock.
It shifted. It wasn't just the imagery that shifted, but the lyrical content shifted,
Yeah, I mean, you went from songs talking about pussy to, the gloom and doom of life.
You went from, like, okay, Warrant Cherry Pie, the song Cherry Pie, to Alice in Chains, Them Bones. I mean, it was a dramatic shift.
Well, I think in, 89, 90, you can almost say even a little bit late 88, you had a band like, say, Britney Fox.
Yeah, I remember.
I liked, to be honest with you, but, they looked pretty ridiculous. With beyond poofy hair. Once again, if you listen to Long Way to Love, that's a great song.
Oh, yeah. All those guys are fucking fantastic singers, fantastic musicians.
Oh, I mean, Michael Kelly Smith is a great guitar player, but if you see the video where I think Dizzy Dean Davidson is wearing they look like gay pirates.
Yeah.
You're like, oh boy, I can't listen to this. So I just think the imagery of And Smells Like Teenage Spirit was probably the first video that was really like, okay, this is different. Like there's anger in this music.
During that time, there was, for me, it was like, hair metal for sure, or 80s metal. But I also like thrash, thrash metal from the Bay and from New York, but from the Bay especially. So it was both metal and heavy metal, but thrash to me was a little bit more like they look like regular people, they were wearing jeans, high tops, t-shirts. So that appealed to me. Like I might have listened to Britney Fox, but there was a band called Metal Church and a song called Badlands on MTV as well. That and I was like, man, that Badlands that's some fucking great shit too. I think Metallica's One kicked the door in.
What's funny, I used to play hockey on Sunday nights in Culver City, which at the time was where the hockey team, the Kings, practiced. And it was kind of a rundown arena, which looking back, it's mind-blowing to me that an NHL team was practicing there. But I would play with Rocky George, the guitar player from Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
He was a good hockey player. And
cool.
He was the first guy to tell me about Guns N' Roses. Like, he was like, I think around early 88, he's like, bro, there's this band. I know them. They're called Guns N' Roses, and they're going to be the next big band in the world. I'm like, bro, you should check out this band, Britney Fox. They're going to be the next big band.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Rocky was really the first person to introduce me to Guns N' Roses. So, and I think he was an amazing player because I think he had a missing fingertip, kind of like Tony Iommi.
Interesting.
And I became aware of Suicidal Tendencies through him. They were a little too hardcore for me.
Right.
But then later on in life, I ended up dating one of the managers from Motorhead. So I kind of by force initially became a fan of harder metal.
What's the heaviest band you like? I'm curious. What would you say?
Weezer? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I would say, I like Metallica's hits. But if you probably Motorhead, I think my favorite Motorhead memory is when they played the House of Blues and Slash came on to play. It was either Killed by Death or I think it was Killed by Death. And he came off after one song and it's like, it's too loud up there. But to Lemmy, it was nothing. You could tell Lemmy, like, hey, crank it up.
Man, the loudest concert I've ever been to, I think, was Slayer. It was at a mid-sized place in Memphis called the New Daisy on Beale Street, New Daisy Theater. It was so fucking loud, man. And I swear that concert, I say this, I've said this to people, like the craziest white motherfuckers in the world go to Slayer concerts. Like they're just headbutting each other. I mean, it's just, I always say they should just close the doors. The military should just close the doors behind, make everyone exit stage left, shave the heads, and then just drop everyone in Afghanistan, and we'd win wars because these fuckers are crazy, man.
I mean, the craziest concert I've ever been to was Motorhead at the Ventura Theater.
Wow.
Ventura's, a little north of where I live.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a Nazi rally, like all white, skinheads,
mm-hmm.
And the mosh pit was, and I certainly wasn't in it, but it was the most violent show I've ever been to. Just animals.
Yeah.
I went to a show a couple of years ago with my girlfriend at the time. She was there to see a band called 21 Pilots.
Oh yeah, my son likes that.
Yeah, I mean, and they were interesting. I mean, they set the stage on fire at one point, and it's a two-person band. I mean,
yeah, I know them. Yeah,
it was engaging. They were the first band, and then Weezer came on, and that's who I was there for.
Okay.
And then the Killers were next. Now, I had never seen the Killers before.
Mm-hmm.
And, outside of somebody told me that was the only song I had. And I said, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom right now.
Okay.
She says to me, staying for the first song, you'll be a fan by the time they finish it.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, begrudgingly. And they started with that song, The Man. And I couldn't take my eyes off the singer. Like, he has Brandon Flowers. He's got like this Elvis type stage persona. And she was right. Like, I think I went home that night and bought all their albums on iTunes. And, it's like the singer from the Killers has it. And I don't know what it is, but there's something, whether it's a singer or a comic, where they just draw you to them. And I think as a comic, that's what I want. That's why I hit the stage in leather pants and custom made jackets and all that bullshit. So, I take a lot of my comedy stage persona from bands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and Ryan Roxy talked about that, how like musicians want to be comics and comics or comedians want to be musicians.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I have no musical talent. I can't imagine like how Ryan feels. I sat the front row the last time Alice Cooper played the Greek, and it was just like mesmerizing to me what he must feel like inside. And then, he came to see me, I think 2 nights later at the Comedy Store, sold out main room. And I could tell not that he wishes he was me, but I'm sure he doesn't. But like for that hour, he kind of, hey, Skakel's pretty cool too.
I think he was more than that. I think he was more impressed than that. I think he, because I did see what he said about that, and I think he was in awe of you, like you were in awe of him.
Well, I think musicians like comedians because, and there's different schools of thought on this. What's harder? But I always say, and of course, I'm a little biased. I think being a comedian is harder because, you could be in a bad band and you could turn around and blame the drummer.
Yeah.
But if you're a bad comic, there's no one behind you. Like,
it's true.
It's your ass. But that's what makes it such a amazing job, is like when it's going, like last night was going about as well as it could for me. And, here I am. It's 12:30 on the Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'm having to follow 6 or 7 super famous comics, Maron, Whitney Cummings, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm holding my own. And it was a sexual feeling. Like, and the first joke hit. And, there's, I interviewed on my podcast this guy, I think it's Stephen Kotler. And he's been on Rogan. He has a book about peak performance and getting into the state of flow. And the whole point of his book is when you get into that state of flow, you could be doing something for an hour and it feels like 2 minutes. Like I experienced that last night where my first joke hit, and because the comic before me, very funny, he's going to be like the next Eddie Murphy. His name's Ron Taylor. He gave me a really nice intro, but he didn't say my name. And so I riffed on that, and the crowd loved it. And I got into a state of flow 30 seconds in. And I think I did an hour, and that hour felt like 3 minutes. Like,
that's awesome.
Even when a joke didn't do well, the crowd laughed because I was having such fun up there.
That's great.
Because believe me, I'm sure you know, like I've had sets where, the first couple minutes are okay, and I'm only doing 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes feels like 2 hours. Because it just, I didn't get in, I never got in that state of flow. So
I always know it's not easy to stand up in front of for the most part, a group of strangers. I mean, I'm sure it's different people every night that you perform in front of, and to make them laugh. You know, that is not an easy thing to do.
You hit the nail on the head. It's strangers. Like,
Yeah,
you know, your friends laugh because they know you.
exactly.
Like when I play hockey with my friends or golf or whatever, you know, I get a lot of laughs because people know what an idiot I am.
Hmm.
But, you know, last night when I walk out on that stage, that crowd doesn't know me.
No.
It's like 7 comics before me, all on TV and movies and all that. So they give you a couple minutes,
Hmm.
and that's it. Because at that point it's midnight and they are ready to go home. But you know, I, it's your job to get them to know you in as little time as possible,
Hmm.
which is tough, you know. But the way I do comedy, I mean, I'm pretty polished after 23 years. There's not too many times I'll walk on stage and go, "Uh-oh, what do I do?" So I can adapt pretty fast. You know, if I sense the room is tight, I go a different direction. If I sense the room is like hot, like last night, they were pretty hot. So they're in a good mood. So they want to let, they're, you know, and I can't speak for musicians, but like as a comic, the crowd's on your side initially. They want to laugh.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't want you to be unfunny.
Hmm.
So, but you know, they can turn on you real fast. But there is a certain level of expectation. But, hey, you better be funny, bro, because I'm out $200 right now. So they are rooting for you.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, not to bring it back to Chad Zumock, but they, you know, you can't show, not that you can't show weakness, but like if you stumble as a comedian, it could really go south fast. Because these are strangers, and when people detect weakness, you know, they could turn on you. And I felt like Chad's set on the Kevin Brennan roast, he just displayed a couple of weaknesses, and like sharks, all the roast comedians were just all over him, and they wouldn't give him a fucking break, man. And now that's different when you have an audience of other comedians like in that roast. But I looked at it from a neutral perspective, and I thought that Chad's set was pretty good. I thought his jokes were pretty funny. I see people pulling up his Kmart ready or whatever it was, and I'm looking at it neutral. I'm like, he's pretty good. I think he's funny. You know, I think he's got some good material. But man, if people don't want to engage with your comedy, it's a tough haul, I can imagine, right?
Well, I'm a roast snob. So, you know, because I grew up in, you know, the Dean Martin roast, which,
Yeah.
you know, were unbelievable. Like, you know, Foster Brooks and Don Rickles. And I prefer them much more than the Comedy Central roast, which, you know, the Dean Martin roasts were great because they were all friends. So they could say unbelievably racist things to Nipsey Russell or Sammy Davis, but they loved see. So that very similar to the Kevin Brennan roast. You know, every comic up there loves Kevin Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think Chad's set, and people are going to say, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're friends with him." I don't think it was that bad. Like,
Yeah, I don't either, man.
was he killing? No, but if you analyze the jokes, you know, the one joke he had was really funny about, you know, Gary Goldman wanted to be here, but he couldn't make it. Leslie Jones wanted to be here, but he couldn't make it. That got a big laugh.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Now the problem is he stumbled on it
When he stumbled, man, that was it.
In that environment, especially New York comics.
Mm-hmm.
They're brutal, man.
Oh
Like,
God, yeah.
you know, so and if you got Aaron Berg, who is an unbelievable comic,
He would not give Chad a break, man.
he was relentless. And then I think you Kumia in the back chiming in.
That was rough.
Gino was chiming in, but you know, in analyzing Chad's roast set, I honestly don't think it was that bad.
No, I don't either. And I think he does have a case when he says the narrative. So I think there is a narrative of people, you know, gaslighting and act. I don't know. We don't have to go into that anymore.
No, but
But
I mean, I think it's here was this, but because I love roast and analyzing roast, that
sure.
I think his problem was he brought too many pieces of paper on stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With roasting, it's better to try and memorize your set because everyone's going to have a roast joke that doesn't do well, and that's when you start fumbling through papers. And
mm-hmm.
so when I had to battle Jesse Joyce, who is an amazing comic, amazing writer, much better writer than I am, he literally came to the stage with like 9 pages of notes and jokes. I came with 6 jokes in my head.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
If I had to come up with a 7th joke, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And his first joke didn't do well. And so he, I don't want to say he got nervous, but like he started looking through his notes and, all that. And I've got all my jokes ready. So I think in a roast, it's, you can have a cheat sheet, but when you come up there with all your jokes with 10, I think Chad had like 7, 8 pages of jokes and, he lost his place and then he got nervous. Yeah. So I would, if you look at the people who did well on that roast, like Kill, like Patty, Tom Cassidy, Gino to a degree,
Chip Shipperson.
Yeah, none of them had notes.
Yeah.
And all of them had a joke that didn't work. Even Patty had the set of the night. I think her and Tom Cassidy, but even they had a joke or two that didn't work.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't think Chad's roast set was that bad.
No, I don't. One thing I noticed about you and a unique talent that you have, and I've noticed it in interviews. So when you're not on stage, is you have a really quick mind, and can really come up with like a jab. I heard you throwing a lot of jabs at various musicians, even Slash or whoever. But I could see them laughing at your jokes about them. And you do it really fast, and it's based off the conversation you're having.
Probably my best asset. Am I the best joke writer? Probably not, to be honest. But my mind is incredibly fast, which is why, like, when I'm on stage, and I have to make a quick adjustment, it happens pretty fast because there's no stumbling around in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm like almost like the bionic woman. Like I hear things before they're even said.
Yes, and that's what makes people good in their craft, whether it's sports or what. It's like people that can slow time and see things or have dialogue in their head and can actually communicate it in a quick. I mean, that's quintessential talent in a way.
Like last night, a glass broke in the kitchen and it was very loud. And the crowd, you could tell the crowd was looking at me going, you better have something right now. And I did. I said, oh, someone just saw their bill in the kitchen. And, not the greatest line, but,
it worked quick.
I literally said 0.08 seconds after the glass hit the floor. So I'm lucky and, to be, I mean, that's probably my number one comedy attribute is quickness.
I could see it. When you said a story about Tyler, the Creator, was that at the Comedy Store and you were roasting him a little bit. Just, I think he was in the crowd, but after he says, "Hey, I'm Tyler the Creator," and you go, "Great, I'm Earl the Comedian." I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, that was. I think that's what got me the job because I'm sure, not knowing who he was at the moment, but certainly knowing who he is now, like I'm sure everywhere he goes, he gets his ass kissed.
Yeah.
And people wanting something from him or wanting to give him something. Hey, listen to my CD and my demos is great. And here I was just shitting on him. And I think he liked that. Like, who is this guy? And that's his sense of humor, is to put me as the lead on an all-black cartoon. It's like, that's very South Park of him.
Hey, we got a couple of minutes left.
Sure.
Scandoval. What's your take?
Well, I mean, it's someone who's been cheated on, and I've cheated, unfortunately. It's definitely not a brag. I've been on both sides of that. Can't imagine the level of betrayal that and I think it just broke yesterday that there was some cheating going on in their house.
I'm not like this huge watcher of Vanderpump Rules, but my wife is, so I'll watch it in the periphery. But I did start to watch right as the Scandoval thing started to happen. And I found myself kind of siding with Tom Sandoval a little bit. It depends on what you believe, but I feel like if there's a relationship and it doesn't seem like that relationship is flourishing, or one person believes it was and one person believes it wasn't, and there's not a marriage involved, I feel like he has every right to say, hey, I'm not happy in this relationship, and I feel like, based on what I saw, and I want to get your opinion on this, but I feel like she was content in the relationship, and maybe too content, and I think she has some things to look in the mirror and work on. And it's not all about this piece of shit, Tom Sandoval. How he handled it, yes. But at the same time, when someone's not letting you out of a relationship, and I heard maybe she threatened to harm herself, that's a fucking problem.
Well, I think, it's tough in a reality show breakup. And they might have been getting pressure from the network. Hey, you guys can't break up. It has to be when we're filming. Because there was that one scene during, I think it was episode 1 of the reunion part 1, where Tom was like, I just need a fucking break, man. Turn off the cameras. I want to talk to Raquel alone. We just need a few minutes alone. And the producer's like, no, if you guys are together, we have to film it. So, because I live right by Pump.
Okay.
I live right by Tom. I walk my dog every day right by Sir. So I see those guys in out of season, I guess is the right phrase. And very rarely are they together. Like, none of them work. Tom is barely open. It's really only open during filming. So I think there's so much, there was that one scene when Ariana is moving out of the house and she's carrying some financial papers, and there was a financial company's logo on the box. But it was later known that she hadn't even moved out yet. That was a fake scene. So she had a paid advertisement deal with that financial company.
Yeah.
So they were like, let's film a scene where you're moving and you can be holding one of our boxes. So I would agree with you in like a regular breakup. I've certainly had breakups where either me or the other party was unhappy. And instead of breaking up, we just started cheating.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to hurt their feelings, or they didn't want to hurt my feelings,
Yeah, it's amazing what people will do to avoid hurting someone else's feelings.
Reality shows, because every episode on any reality show, except Survivor, and even on that show, they get people drunk. Get people drunk, get their defenses down, and make fun of them.
Exactly.
It's really to show the worst in people.
Exactly. One thing that is reality is that Tom Sandoval. I mean, I'm comfortable in my sexuality, but damn, that's a good looking guy. Am I wrong? I mean, shit.
No, he puts in the work. Shaves the forehead and spends hours on his hair. I mean, he's good looking, but he works at it. He doesn't get the credit for that.
Now, the true test is to see what he looks like at 54, and he better hope he looks as good as you.
Well, I put in the work, though. I spend
a
lot of money on moisturizers, facials, working out, all that shit.
He's going to have to quit the drinking, though. That's something he's going to have.
Well, I mean, drinking is probably the worst thing you could do for your skin, because it bloats your skin, it dehydrates you. And I'm not trying to turn this into a beauty segment, but like, you can maintain your looks pretty well, and you don't have to be a super weight workout freak, but You just basic maintenance can shave years off your face and body.
That's true. That's true. And yeah. And another thing I like about you as we wrap it up is you don't have to do drugs, you don't have to drink to command a room and to be funny. And I think you are great at that. I think I can't wait to see what you do next. I can't wait to hear about your projects and voiceover. I think that's a great thing for you. You are a very unique and funny person, and I'm honored to have you on my show. And I hope to have you on again in the near future.
I appreciate you having me. I talk a lot. Helps me get rid of my oxygen. Can't take it with you.
Yeah, that's true. I hope you have a good night. Thanks again, and I will talk to you later.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
See ya.